Hey everybody, this is Alex with GuitarForce.com. As you can see today we're going to take a look at Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix, which was actually covered by him, not written. But this song is probably the most known song associated with Jimi, and it's because he became famous with this song back in the 60s when he came to England. Now, this is not going to be a note-for-note lesson, although I will show you how to play the intro part and also the two solos which are taken. The first one is from the studio version and the second one is from the BBC sessions. And also will give you some of the licks that Jimi actually used during this song. But my goal with this video is to show you how Jimi approached this chord progression, this song, and will give you some theory background so you can actually come up with your own approach to this song, but at the same time in the style of Jimi Hendrix if you want to. Now, speaking of Jimi's style of playing, I have this huge video lesson which is in two parts available at GuitarForce.com, which is called Get Experienced, and it's all about Jimi's style of playing, covering different topics. So if you're interested, the links are going to be in the description box down below. Go check it out, and that way you're going to be supporting me and at the same time getting some awesome quality information. Now, the tabs and the backing track for this song, for this lesson, are going to be available at GuitarForce.com for free as usual. As far as the sound, again, nothing changes. I was using Guitar Rig with the preset. I'm also gonna show you the picture of the preset that I was using. The only addition to the sound, I was using a overdrive pedal by Full Tone OCD for the second solo. Okay. So yeah, while you're checking out the picture of the preset, we're going to be in standard tuning. So here is my low E for your tuning reference. Alright guys, so without further ado, let's take a listen to the intro part, then we'll come back and start the lesson. Alright, so the first part of the intro goes like this. So we start off with either a slide or a hammer-on from the 3rd fret on the B string to the 5th fret of the B string, and it's a grace note, so we do it really fast, so either a slide or hammer-on. And at the same time we have high E string open. And it doesn't make that much difference if you do a slide or hammer-on, because Jimi did it also both ways, at different occasions, so it's okay to use both of them. So sliding up to the 5th fret, then we go down to the 3rd fret again of the B string, while at the same time the high E string is still ringing, like that. Then we have, so on the G string we have a grace note, so that means again we do a fast slide, this time slide from the 4th fret to the 2nd fret, then pull off to the open and play 2nd fret of the D string. So far we got this. And then we form an E major chord and we kind of break it down, so play the bass note first, and then kind of arpeggiate the other strings, while letting it ring out all of the notes. So far we got this. Then the next part. So here, starting off with the low E string open, and then we have a slide. Now there are a couple of ways how you can play this. The first one is going to be using octaves. So on the A string we have 5th fret, on the G we have 7. Another variation, you can use just this double stop, which is on the A and the D strings at the 5th fret, right? Or you can use all of them. You know, I kind of prefer to use all of them to get this fuller sound. Okay, so it looks like G power chord in the second inversion. So the D note is in the bass. So we have. So once we slide into this chord, we then pick the low E again, pick this chord one more time. Then all we do, just shift the whole thing down and a fret. So we have now on the A and the D 4th fret, and on the G 6th, right? So we have this. And then we go down to the second position, playing an E power chord, but using that octave again on the G string, 4th fret. And then you can, you know, again kind of arpeggiate the chord, or you can add the high E and the B strings open. So far we got this from the beginning. Okay, now, you know, be careful, pay attention to the rhythm, because especially in Jimmy's music, the rhythm patterns are really, really important. You know, it's his essence, and if you want to be able to play, you know, as close to Jimmy as possible, pay attention to the rhythmical side of things. So the last lick that we have, this one, which is holding this double stop again on the 7th position of the D and the G strings, and you hammer onto the 9th fret only of the D string, while at the same time the G string is ringing. You know, and when you do the hammer on, you then pick the G string. Either G string or both strings, you know, doesn't make a difference, because you let them ring out, so you get this sound. So you do it 2 times, and then we slide out, and basically that's the whole intro. So let me play it one more time again, kind of slower, all of the parts together. It goes like this. Okay, so now we come to the main part of the song, which is practically using the same chord progression throughout the whole song. And we're going to break this section in 2 parts. The first one, we're going to talk a little bit about the chords that are being played, you know, during this this progression. And the second part is going to be, I'm going to show you 8 different licks that you can use when we stay in E major chord. Okay, we'll get to that later on. So first, let me explain the progression. It's pretty standard, uses the circle of fifths actually. Starts off with C chord, it's all going to be major chords, so C, to G, to D, to A, and to E. Now on the E chord we're going to be staying for whole 2 bars, and that's where these 8 licks are going to be played on. Okay, but like I said, it's going to be in the second part. So let me give you a couple of tips how you can play these chords, you know, so it doesn't sound too boring, and also if you want to you know, play similar to Jimmy's style, I'm going to give you a few tips how you can embellish these chords and what you actually can do also with them. So the first tip is going to be, as you can see, I'm playing the 5th string root note to the 6th string root note, right? All of the chords. and it's a great way to move around the neck. But if you know your cage system really well, you can use these chords in different positions, right, using different shapes, and thus you're going to get different voicings of the chords. And also, of course, you can mix them up, you know, using the 5th string root note, 6th string root note, but also using, for example, open chords. In fact, you can play just all of the chords here and at the first position using the open chords. So for C we have this, for G, D, A, and E. Okay. Another variation, like I said, you know, you can mix them up. So for example, C, you can play a first inversion. The first inversion, that means that we have a third in the bass. So the C major chord consists of C, E, G, right, these notes. So you put the third in the bass, and the rest of the chord is just like the in the shape of A. So you put third in the bass, and you have the first inversion of the major chord. And the same thing you can do for D, right? Another way you can use, for example, C right here in this position using the 6th string root note. Okay, so it gives another voicing, different voicing. So like I said, you know, you can mix all of these things together, and that's what practically Jimi did. Another thing, you can embellish chords, meaning that we add different notes to the chords. So for example, when he's using the G and A, you know, well, not only G and A, but when you use the 6th string root note, you can add the 9th, for example. You know, and he would use that quite often as well. Or you can use a suspended 4th. Also, you can create different licks, you know, like little hammer-ons, pull-offs during these chords, when using these chords. So, you know, just to give you a couple of examples, how might Jimi would approach these chords would be something like this. Okay, so another variation. Okay, so like I said, you know, using different positions, adding these hammer-ons, pull-offs, adding different notes, also using some licks. So he did this a lot when going for the D chord, for example. You know, he would go for the first inversion, but also he would add some of the notes from the relative pentatonic scale. Okay, so if you know your positions of the cage system and also the relevant pentatonic positions which are related to the chord, you know, you can do all sorts of things in the same style as Jimi did. And in fact, if you're interested, I have this exactly the same lesson on this, you know, cage system, but at the same time I'm assigning the appropriate pentatonic positions to the chords, and I look at 3 main chord families, which are major, minor, and dominant 7, you know, using the cage system and also the appropriate pentatonic scales and also the blues scale. So if you're interested in that kind of style, you know, and you want to learn how to be able to use them all across the fretboard, I'm going to post the links in the description box down below so you can go and check it out. And, you know, it's really useful. Once you learn these things, you know, it's like you open opportunities, just endless. You can use a lot of things there, and that's basically in a nutshell what Jimmy did, when playing this kind of style. So one more tip that I just remembered, when playing these chords, also he would use different the double stops. So for example, in the 6th string root note, we have these 3 double stops, which are just beside this chord right here. Same goes for the A, and he would use things like that. So these could be related to as major double stops, or these are the same, at least these 3 are with the Mixolydian 6s, okay? So, like I said, the possibilities are endless. Alright, so now we come to the second part of this section, and now we're going to break down some of the licks. But before that, let's take a listen to some of them, then we'll come back and start breaking them down. Let's check it out. Alright, so before we start breaking down the licks themselves, let me give you a little bit of theory background on the scales, what kind of scales you can use when staying in E. So you can create your own licks when playing this song. So Jimmy would use primarily E major chord and E power chord, right? And his choice of scales would be, number 1, of course, the E minor pentatonic scale. Right, and when you play minor over major, it kind of creates this blues related sound. Okay, so a lot of these blues guys were using the minor pentatonic over major, and like I said, it gives this kind of bluesier sound. The number 2 scale would be, of course, the major, the E major, right? E major pentatonic. And also sometimes he will throw in the blues scale, the E minor blues scale. Okay, so these were the choices of the scales that he would use when staying in E. Primarily, of course, he would use the minor pentatonic. So now on to the licks themselves. I'm just going to play the licks in E, right? And we're going to break them down one by one. So the first one goes like this. So staying here in E, then we do the same thing as we did in the intro, same kind of thing. So we fret the double stop on the 7th fret of the D and the G strings, and we play the hammer on like that, right? Then we play again the E power chord and the next lick. So here starts off from the 5th fret, hammer on onto the 7 on the low E string. Then we go to the 5th on A, back to 7 on E, then grace note, meaning the fast hammer on the A string from 5 to 7, back to 5, back to 7 on low E, and we slide out. Okay, so one more time. Okay, now keep in mind that you can play all of these licks and excuse me, not necessarily holding the E power chord. You can use it either here or here. It's the licks in between which counts. All right, so keep that in mind. The next lick would go like this. Okay, so this one is very common that Jimmy used. So staying in E, then we have, so sliding up to the 7th fret on low E, then we play 5 on A, back to 7 on E, then we go to 5 on D, and we're back to the chord. Sometimes you can use a variation, sort of, adding a little trill here when you get to the 5th fret of the D string. And then this part, this is kind of using parts of the major pentatonic, of the E major. So we have holding a double stop on the 12th fret of the high E and the 12th fret, and then we have again the grace note, so meaning we hammer on onto the 14th fret of the B string while the high E is still ringing on the 12th. And then we have, so another double stop on the G string, we have 11, and on the B 12, and we hammer on onto the 13th fret of the G string, back to the initial double stop. Then we play 14 on D, and then we play the double stop, the initial again, and we slide out. Like that. Okay, so one more time. Okay, next lick goes like this. Alright, so here we're in the first position of E major chord, and here we're implementing the E blues scale. So again, a grace note on the D string from open to the 2nd, then we play open, and then we go down the blues scale. So on A string we have 2, 1 open, 3rd fret on the low E, and then we go to the trill of the D string, open to the 2nd fret. Then again we kind of pick the, or arpeggiate the chord, and then the next lick, these pull-offs, which are performed on the high E string, 5-3 open, and we do the same thing on the B string. He would play like that, or sometimes he would mix them. So the first time you play on the high E string, then go to B, then back to high E, then again to B. Like that, okay? So one more time. Okay, next lick goes like this. Alright, so here again, staying on this the open E chord. And now we're going to be using the double stops, the 6ths. So we have a slide from the 2nd fret on the G string up to the 4th fret. Then we pick on the high E string 4th fret, so on the G from 2 to 4. And then from 4th fret on the G, we slide up to the 7th fret, pick 7th fret of the high E, and then slide out both of them. Like that, okay? So if you know your double stops, right, you can do all sorts of licks. So this is one of them. And then again we're back to the E chord. And this one is kind of similar to the intro. So we slide on the G string from 2 to 4, again grace note. And you can include the open B string as well. And then we'll go 3, 5, 3 on B. And then back down on the G again, grace note from 4 to 2, open, and then we have 2 to open on the D string. Okay, so one more time. All right. All right, lick number 5 goes like this. All right, so here we're staying in the 7th position, power chord, using again this as we did in the beginning, so hammer-ons from 7 to 9 on D, while keeping that 7th fret of the G string. You know, and he would use this a lot. And also, right, these two licks he would use a lot in his playing. And after that we have, so here we're going to be playing a lick in E major. So staying on E here, and then we go sliding again grace note up to the 11th fret of the A string. Then we play a double stop on the 9th fret of the D and the G string. Then we play 11 on D, and you can use the G string, you know, to ring out. So 11, then back to the double stop, or this part of the chord, 9 of the D and the G. And then we have another grace note from A string, on A string from 11 to 9. Then play 7 on D and the G strings. And then we have a slide out from the 9th fret of the low E string. So we have, okay, so all together. Okay, so that's lick number 5. So next one goes like this. So here we're going to be using E7 sharp 9 chord. You know, that's what is it called, the Jimi Hendrix's chord. So he would use it sometimes as well. And now instead of playing this part here, we take it up an octave. So we go and play here. So slide up to the 14th fret on the A string. Then we play 12 on D, back to A14, and then 12 on G. And slide out from the 14th fret of the D. Right, we're back to E chord, and and then we have the next lick, which is again a double stop on the high E and the B strings at the 7th fret, and again we have a grace note hammering onto the 9th fret of the B string. Then we play just the double stop, and then 9 on G, and repeat one more time. So all together, like that. So one more time, the whole thing. Okay. Next lick goes like this. Alright, so here we are staying in the 7th position. Again we have this part, which we've covered before. The next lick is interesting because he's using, it's practically, if you look at it, it's a E7 chord, E dominant 7, and then he plays a little melody on the B string. Right, so going 9 to 7, then to 10, 9, 7, and then 2 times on 9 and slide out. But at the same time, while holding, the whole chord. You can either hold the whole chord like that, or using different fingerings, just these 3 strings, for example, like that, playing a little melody. So again, one more time, all of the parts together. Alright, so the last lick before the solo goes like this. Okay, so here, just staying using this open chord, the E major chord, at the 1st position, and then we have, so basically bending the G string at the 2nd fret, and then going open B, open E, then back to the bending of the G string, and then we have, so it's a bend, release down, pull off to the open. It just happens real quickly. And then just arpeggiating the E, and then we're going to the 1st solo. Alright, so these are just some of the licks that Jimi used in his playing. Of course, there are many, many more. But now that you have some of the theory background and know what kind of scales you can use, you can create your own licks. And if you're interested, you can check out my sort of cover playthrough of this song. I'm going to post the links in the description box down below if you would like to check it out, some of the other licks, if YouTube doesn't block my video. But that's pretty much it for the rhythm part, and in the next part we're going to break down the solos. Alright guys, so that was it for part 1 on this lesson. The lesson on the solos, part 2, is going to be on a separate video. So the links are going to be in the description box down below. So if you're interested, please check it out. Thank you once again for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. Also comment, share, subscribe if you are new to my channel. Don't forget to visit GuitarForce.com for more guitar related stuff. In the meantime, I'll see you again. Take it easy, and as always, may the force be with you.